Good evening, everyone. I'm just going to take you through my watch list for the week upcoming from the 21st of October. First thing, we start off a little bit differently. I'm going to start off by running you through my personal trades for the week. So this week, I only actually traded 3 currency pairs, and from that I got a return of 371.7 pips, which I was really happy with because I was quite busy throughout the week with uni and some stuff for RF. But of course, it's important to sort of balance your workload. And luckily this week I sort of managed to do well in all 3 aspects, as well as going out and having a social life as well. So firstly, we've got the 3 trades here. So we've got Australian dollar, US dollar, Euro, US dollar, and Euro, New Zealand dollar. And between these 3, I've got 371.7 pips. To start off with, I've got sort of 3 pairs here. So we've got Euro USD, which is in the watch list, Euro New Zealand, which is in the results, and then Australian dollar, US dollar, which I'll go over shortly. So to start off with, we'll go through Euro New Zealand dollar. So this one, I could have kept open, but obviously we have got quite a lot of news and sort of a lot of meetings going over the weekend, and therefore it was important sort of just banking in positions you had. Normally I wouldn't really be bothered about any gaps on the weekend. However, I think everyone within the industry knew this weekend was going to be quite important. So therefore I just thought I'm going to bank my profits, take a little withdrawal, and then come back to it next week, and then obviously look for scalings. So let's go through Euro New Zealand dollar. So as you can see on the daily time frame, we have this trend line here coming through, and then we have sort of this significant high here, and then sort of looking at this price action, we have sort of a lot of liquidity wicks going onto this daily time frame. So you see 1 wick here, 2 wick, fake out, another wicks or fake outs, spinning doji, and sort of here we could see an accumulation of wicks, sort of accumulation of candles before reversing, and this is where I caught it. So I was sort of just looking in this area with the RF community, because this one was given out to the whole community by Head Trader Ollie, and it's something I was looking at as well. So as you can see, we sort of come to closest trend line, come back down, and I actually got in onto the wick of this candle to start reversing. It was a great trade, and I think we took, what did we take? So we took 168.6 and 22 pips. So if we go back onto our chart, it was probably around this area we would have taken a bit of profit. So of course, I could have probably let this one go a lot longer, possibly down to the trend line. If we took it down to the trend line, it would be around sort of 270 pips. So I might look to get in, and for the following week, I'm looking at Euro New Zealand still, to look in to get into shorts. And obviously, as we have got this channel, as you can see, quite a large channel, if we can break back into it, then I'm expecting some downwards potential, especially with the euro looking pretty weak across the board. So that was Euro New Zealand dollar. Next, I'm going to just quickly show you Australian dollar, US dollar. If we go on to so Australian dollar, US dollar, most of you will know who've been watching my videos. New Zealand dollar, US dollar, I've been looking at very closely, and therefore Australian dollar, US dollar correlates pretty similarly. So if we just drop down to the 4-hour time frame, this is where I sort of got in. It's just sort of a simple day trade. I was in one of my lectures, noticed that sort of it was moving how I'd wished, and I just decided to take the trade, see how it went. So as you can see here, we got a break of trend line here, fake out, come back in, retested the Fibonacci level. If we come back out, we can see is the golden pocket region, which is what we expected. We kind of got this sort of inverse head and shoulders here a little bit, or if not double bottom, and then we come back out, broke back through the trend line, and up we went. So I caught about 30 pips on this, just sort of around sort of this entry here, around 6, 7, 900, and then I took it up to around 6, 8, 300. So it wasn't sort of a big trade, sort of 50 pips. It's got a lot more potential in it. I just personally wanted to close it early just to bank some profit for that day. And then the next one we're going to look at is Euro US dollar, which I had 2 trades in and was given to the community, given to my personal group a couple of weeks ago. It was not last week, the week before. We got in on the Thursday, is when I was on the train home, and I was really watching, as I said in the video last week. So if we just sort of go through this now, we can see what we had. We had the inverse head and shoulders down here, and then we also had this sort of liquidity area, break a trend line, retested the trend line, and up we went. So both of these, I say unfortunately, both of these are closed to safe profits. And of course, I did make some nice pips on there. If we go back to our pip, so we made sort of 157 pips off of this. And you could, with the news, didn't really want to hold it. However, it might turn out that we could have. So sort of had it from down here. The scaling, because of we broke through this sort of 1.11100 key level, and we retested, so we got in right on the break of that, as you can see around here, and then we took around 30 extra pips, and both of these were closed before. So then moving on to Euro Pound. So this one I didn't actually get in myself. However, I feel like it's important to go over your sort of charts from the week before doing your analysis for the following week, and just sort of journalising and looking at what you had from the last week and how it turned out. It's not always about sort of all the trades you take, but it's sort of about the ones that you didn't take as well. So here you can see we have sort of something I covered I think 2 weeks ago. Maybe covered it in last week's video as well. But we had this sort of long-term trend line. Or since August, 1, 2, 3 touches. We had the fake out. So as you see here, my confidence at the time was third touch trend line, which was a fake out. Liquidity area here, 0.382 fib and the 50 EMA. Obviously, we did come up higher to a 0.618 fib, and then we saw what happened. Obviously, anyone who traded last week saw some significant strength in the pound, and here we just saw sort of a break from the golden pocket region, sort of 90092. If we get our measurement tool. Yeah, so we can see it was around sort of 400 or 500 pips that potentially could have caught on that pair. Didn't get into the trade, but like I said, it's not always about the ones that you did take, it's about the ones you didn't take as well. And my analysis was correct, so I can take a win on that one for my journal. So as you can see here, come down sort of down to 0.618, which our take profit would have been the minus 0.27, and then possibly would have let it run a little bit further. But obviously with Brexit coming on this pair, you definitely wouldn't have wanted to hold over the weekend. And now we might see sort of a pullback within this pair because of how sort of impulsive this move was. So it is due some correction. We do have sort of double spinning top formation here, which is a reversal pattern, which could have some power to it as well. And then last but not least, we're going to go on to pound Australian dollar. This one is too messy for me to get in for a short. However, what I'd expect is the price sort of retrace here, just like we had with euro pound. So looking at this one, I was really gutted, and I did put this on my Instagram and sort of spoke to a couple of guys in the community about it. So this one I actually sort of lost a 1,000 pip trade, which would have, of course, been a record trade for me personally, as my previous high is around 270 pips to 300 pips. So this one was 1,008 pips, which of course anyone will know that's a huge trade. So obviously what we can see here is the break and retested trend line, which we had sort of coming through that Fibonacci, come back down, and then we sort of just shot up. And unfortunately I missed this entry due to being in uni, but I did give it to one of my members, Aaron, who took the trade, and I think he got out for a couple hundred pips, and it sort of went on to make 1,000. So we're both unlucky in that regard, but like I said, it's another trade that I can sort of journalise and think, well, my analysis was correct and therefore my strategy was right, and then we go again. But no, I'd expect this pair to sort of come back down, but like I said, I'm not really looking for an entry on this pair at the moment. It's got the 1.88831 level, so we can watch it from there. So moving on to this week's watch list, we have sort of starting off with the dollar index as always. So as we predicted last week, and to be fair, most of our predictions was right last week, but of course we're not going to get into every trade because we don't have too many trades running. I like to sort of have maximum 3 trades running, that if one's risk free, then I might look to have a scaling or another trade. But it's important to be able to manage your positions and not sort of have 5 to 10 running every day, and sometimes you have to sit on your hands and not take a position. So here you can see here we have the 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, and then we have this sudden break. If we go onto the 4 hour, we can actually see the corrective patterns off the break. So yeah, like we predicted last week, we had the break here, correction, break here, correction, break, correction, break, and then sort of a tiny correction, and then break again. So very, very impulsive move by all means. If we go into the daily time frame, so you can see sort of 1, 2, 3 heavy bearish candles. So now, so like I said before, we wanted to go from the 99 level down to this 97 level. Obviously the 98 level is quite crucial as well, so if we did break through that, I'd look for the 97. If we didn't, I'd look to go back up. However, with the break of trend line, sort of we was really anticipating that 98 being broken. So now, obviously, with all this sort of bearish momentum, I can't really see price retracing too much. I don't see it really going back up to 98, but if we do get a retrace, then potentially we could. However, I'd favour more of this sort of the blue arrows here, which signal a 96 sort of level. So what I'd look for here is maybe a bit of correction, a break of 97, retest, and then back down to 96. And of course, what this will mean is that if the DXY goes down, then pairs like Euro USD will go up, and sort of the dollar pairs gain. Dollar pairs weaken, therefore Euro dollar would increase. Whereas if we do see a pullback and DXY increases, then we see pairs like Euro dollar decrease. Because of course DXY is the dollar strength, and obviously because of DXY dollar strength and Euro dollar perfectly correlated with it, inversely correlated with it, we see the opposites occur. So based off of this, we'll go on to our next pair, Australian dollar yen. So here what I'm looking for is using a strategy that the RWF members shall know from our recent video. If you haven't seen the strategy video, then make sure to contact me and I can sort of get you started with RWF where you can look at the strategy. So what we have here is we have this trend line. We have 1 touch, 2 touch, and then of course the third touch. As we know, the third touch is important to see whether we're going to get a break or bounce scenario. Here, what we got was our break of trend line, retest, sort of hover, and then up to this level. So what I'm looking here is if we can break this high, we're sort of going to come down, come up a little bit higher and higher. Then I'm going to look for a retracement into our golden pocket, and then we're going to look for the Fibonacci extension. So we do have this trend line here, so it means we need to break this trend line. If we go into the 4 hour, so yeah, so we look down, sort of clean this up a little bit. So yeah, I'd look for sort of a breakdown to here into our golden pocket, one of our golden pocket regions, and then back up for a longer trade. So that would be around sort of 250 pips, which would be a great trade. That's something that I'm looking at. So Australian dollar yen, that's sort of what I'm looking at for that. Euro Australian dollar next. If we go back out into the daily. Okay, so what we have is 1, 2, 3. Fake out on the golden pocket region, and then now we'll get into bearish pressure, which of course, if you would have already realised that Euro New Zealand dollar and Euro Aussie dollar would be very close correlated, and therefore we can see the bearish movement that we had here. So by all means, people might have caught the Euro Australian dollar as well as the Euro New Zealand, or you would have just anticipated they'd move very similarly. So now if we look sort of close to price action, we've got this sort of, if I go into 4 hour, we can see why I've marked this horizontal ray. So you can see here we are sort of finding a little bit of support here. However, what we can see is this head and shoulders pattern. So left shoulder, head, and then potentially going to come up to a right shoulder. So something like this. Come down, and then we look for the break, retest, and then we could break. So something like that potentially to get the head and shoulders formation, and then potentially a bigger move. So potentially I might be able to get back in, get into Euro Australian dollar rather than scaling into Euro New Zealand dollar. So that is something that I'm looking for to mark out sort of these head and shoulders formation. Sometimes I like to use a curve, just like so. So I might just place that here, copy and paste it. And then it's just a bit cleaner. So I'd look for sort of the right shoulder to appear on the trend line, and if we can get that, I'd be looking at something like this. And then down, and as the blue arrow shows, and then obviously if we go onto the daily, if we go on daily, so we can see we do have this sort of counter trend line here. So I'd look for sort of a break of that with the right shoulder potentially breaking that, and then coming through, retesting this sort of minor support or turn resistance if it does break, and then I'll be looking for our minus 0.27 fib extension. So I quite like this trade. It's one of the sort of ones I'm watching quite closely, and then we see what will happen. So moving on to EuroCAD. EuroCAD, sort of, if we go on to the weekly, we can see we've got this sort of channel. So it's really, really long-term trend line from 2012. We can see on here we have our So if we go back onto the daily, we've got our three confluences here. So the double bottom on the daily, the break of trend line and retest on the 4 hour. If my chart loads, there we go. Break the trend line and retest on the 4 hour and the monthly trend line, of course, as I said before. So obviously this is the break, and we have the Fibonacci. If we get our Fibonacci, we can just sort of look at this. Price didn't quite come down to our golden pocket. How about our 0.5? Did it touch our 0.5 fib? Yeah, perfect. So as you can see, the significance of the Fibonacci. So move this down. You can see how it sort of hovered onto our 0.5 Fibonacci and then it pushed up. So those who use the strategy will know why that is and how we can use that to our advantage, and before the trade is taken, how we can predict that. And then now sort of we'll be looking for the long up to the minus 0.27 or minus 0.618, which is where one of the lower highs was formed. So that's what I'm looking for on there. I'm looking for sort of bullish potential up from this Fibonacci rejection. So now Euro US dollar, obviously this one I said I had trades on. For me personally, I'm just sort of watching this, just sitting out this trade for now, just purely because I want to take my profit for the weekend, and now I don't really see an entry. I could have kept my scaling potentially, but I decided just to take the whole profit and sort of close with nothing running for the weekend, which I haven't done in a while. So here you can see we have this liquidity area here and this top here. So that is potentially where I might look to get into a short or look into scaling into a long. But that's sort of the next significant area for me. But it is sort of a good level to look at, and obviously our golden pocket is here as well, just above it. So potentially shorts there, but not too much at the moment, and we might have to look for next week for that one. So now pound dollar. So this one, of course, with Brexit coming and Brexit looming, I'm not really looking for pound dollar pairs. However, it's more just sort of have a look at, because obviously pound dollar is quite a popular pair alongside euro dollar. So for this one, what I'm just sort of taking note of is straight away you can see this monthly resistance. So pound dollar is currently at monthly resistance of 1.30000. We know how price tends to come to these round numbers, so this round number is quite significant, and therefore with this sort of massive impulsive moves to the upside, I'm anticipating some correction and potentially a move back down to the weekly resistance. So that's just something to look at. I'm not really too interested in this pair personally. However, it's just something to look at. If we do get a break above this monthly resistance, then we have got massive upside potential. If we get rid of these fibs, I don't really look at pound dollar too much these days, if I'm honest, just purely because of volatility between the pound and the dollar, and sort of their own pairs and how they sort of react with others. But as you can see, like I said, if we do get that break, then it's huge. But something just to look at. And obviously, if you don't know sort of a lot about these monthly resistance or weekly resistance or support, if you don't sort of know where to find them, then you will find them in the RWF trading community on Slack. If you're not a part of that, by all means get in touch and we can sort that out. On the free trial, you actually get access to these and you'll have them forever. So next we're going to look at New Zealand dollar, US dollar, and as everyone knows, the last few weeks it's been one of my favourite pairs to trade. This week I closed one of my trades on it right at the start of the week, so I didn't really count it in my thing because I counted it as last week's trade. However, the significant thing here is look at this weekly candle. What a beautiful candle that is. Massive wick, and we got in right at the bottom of a couple weeks ago. But of course we are still very low, so potentially a scaling could be around the corner. And obviously we are breaking above the 50 MA, so maybe if we can get a retest of the 50 MA, we can look to scale in for a long and get in again. Now I've only got a few more pairs left. USD CAD. So I know a lot of people took shorts off this liquidity area, which I actually did go through last week. So I said we are in this liquidity area, so we might be able to get short here off this counter trend line and break it. Exactly what we did. Didn't take it myself because I'm still really just looking to get into a safe trade with this one. CAD's been a bit funny for me lately. CAD, you know, normally like trade, haven't really traded. So, but no, what we're going to look at here is obviously same as every week, same plan in place. Break this trend line, come back, retest, and come in. Now we are at this support, so it'll be interesting to see how price reacts around this support. If we break it, then I'll be looking for the break trend line. But of course, it would have been quite a good level to get in on this liquidity area. People would have already caught around 200 pips, so quite a nice trade potentially. I personally just didn't take it. I didn't see it, if I'm honest. I didn't see it when it got into the liquidity area. I didn't have my price alert for this one, so I wasn't too bothered about it at the start. But like I said, there's still a massive move to come. So still looking at that one. USD Swiss. So this one, for me, I'm not looking too much at it. I just sort of wanted to point out, if we look at price action on the daily, this was something I covered last week. So you can see we had sort of this golden pocket rejection, multiple wicks rejection, and then this impulsive move broke through the trend line, broke through the cycle level. Actually, would have been a really nice a nice trade for the confluences. So now we can see we've come down to our Fibonacci levels, minus 0.27 and minus 0.618. So now I'm just looking to see if price is going to retrace a little bit with our DXY as well. But for me, just so you guys sort of know how we did sort of predict this one last week, and that's the importance of journalising and forecasting. Finally, USD JPY. So this one, a few of us have been speaking about within the community. It's quite an interesting one because personally for me, I just feel like price is very low right now, and naturally with how weak the dollar is, that's sort of to be expected. So what we have here is this channel. So you can see 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, and that's all the trend line for there. But then obviously we have this trend line here, 1, 2, 3, 3 touches. So what I'm actually anticipating is for after this rejection of this liquidity area, so the sellers coming in at this point because this is a supply zone. So as a supply zone, it means that there's more supply, so it's not as rare, so therefore more people can access it and get into it. So what I'm looking for here is rejection, which we had, and then sort of come down, break this trend line, come down to back down to this trend line possibly, where we might be able to touch one of our Fibonacci. Is our 0.5 going to be close? Yes, potentially could come to our 0.5 instead, and see something like this. Probably, yeah, it's perfect actually. If we look how that lines up quite nicely with some resistance or support here, and then potentially we could be looking for a massive move to the upside. So that's my last one I wanted to watch. I hope it's been helpful. I hope some of you guys can catch some moves off of it. Make sure to tag me. I know Christian caught a couple hundred pips the other day from some of the analysis I gave him. So make sure you have a good watch. Compare your analysis to mine. Obviously, send me your analysis if you've got something different or if you've got something similar. And then, of course, just message me if you've got any questions. And obviously, if you do want to join the RF community, please drop me a message. I'll be happy to help. Have a great trading week, guys, and we'll see you next time.